Alex Wenberg gets a game-winning goal. The Toledo Walleye are giving the Kansas City Mavericks everything they can take. And we have a new IIHF champion, all that and more on this episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Erica L. Ayala, here as your host, as always, of Locked On Kraken. Want to let you know that today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Again, my name is Erica L. Ayala. You can follow me at Black Rosie Media, which is my platform to empower Black women and other melanated creators in sports media. We have a lot of hockey going on. PWHL finals, Stanley Cup conference finals, ECHL playoffs, AHL playoffs, IIHF. It's all going down. Memorial Day weekend, my sister's wedding. There's been a lot going down. But I wanted to start with Alex Wenberg, who gets the game-winning goal to get the Rangers ahead of the Florida Panthers on the road, as a matter of fact. And it's his first goal of the playoffs. The New York Rangers now have a 2-1 series lead. And so on the one hand, we're excited for Wenny, right? On the other hand, is this kind of like the one that got away? Probably not. We've talked about it before. Alex Wenberg had an interesting conversation with some people who cover the Kraken at the last training camp. And what I like is that Alex Wenberg got this goal doing exactly what Alex Wenberg does. It was a tip drill, crashing in front, just kind of camping really in front of the net, just really skilled hand-eye coordination, gets his team the win. That's what we would have wanted from Wenberg. But I think it goes back to what we've talked about before. The systems that the Seattle Kraken, that they deployed under Dave Haxtell, that they arguably had to because of how their roster is constructed, excuse me, needs more of Alex Wenberg. Then I don't know if we just needed more from Alex Wenberg at the time. Maybe that's not how he wanted to play at this point in his career. Is it just bad matchups? All of these things, Alex Wenberg after the game with the Rangers talked about chemistry with his line mates, and it's I think you're gonna kind of get yourself sick if all you do is talk or think about the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of the situation. Be happy for Alex Wenberg. I'm not sure how y'all feel about Florida or New York Rangers individually, but I mean, yeah, we would have liked it to work out with Seattle, but happy for Wenny. Love that he got his goal in a very Wenberg fashion. I think if anything, it's just pointing to me that there's more that needs to be done. A deeper dive, more critical eye with good fit for the Seattle Kraken. I think some of what we've been seeing is like maybe, good on paper or something in theory is good, but is it the best for our team? I hope that once we get a new head coach, a new assistant as well, that we kind of figure out what the vibe is going to be. I don't have anything against Dave. I think ironically, Ron Francis used to say, you don't want to ever be the first GM of a franchise. The first GM has to put out all the fires. I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing what he was saying. Nobody remembers the first GM, and maybe it's the same for the head coach as well. There were challenges with Dave under his system, but not challenges that I think were insurmountable. And again, I think that there are challenges that could have been fixed if maybe there was just a little bit more done at the front office level. And so now it's crunch time. The Seattle Kraken are seeing players that used to be on our roster flourish elsewhere. We're seeing, other teams pick up head coaches before the draft, and we haven't really made any moves, at least publicly. So, I'm curious. I'm curious how everything's going to turn out. I think it's going to be curious. I did also find this quote from Wenberg interesting. I feel like this is a team that it doesn't matter who's the hero, doesn't matter who does it. We're all playing for one another. Maybe I haven't put up the similar points, but as a team, everything we do together, and we have an end goal. So obviously it's a great feeling, good for the confidence, but I'm just happy about the team, said Wenberg. Big win for the Rangers. And, they're up 2-1, I think, right now. The Panthers took game 1. Rangers took game 2 and 3, both overtime wins. And, I was talking on CBS how I thought this was a very, on paper, well-matched rivalry here for an Eastern Conference. And I did give the Florida Panthers the edge, but right now, they're down 2-1. Game 4 is going to be tomorrow, Tuesday, May 28th. And game 5 slated for Thursday, May 30th. But coming up next, we have some more hockey that we've got to talk about, more overtimes, more just really great performances, especially in net in this series between the Toledo Walleye and our Kansas City Mavericks. That's coming up on Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken, as I mentioned earlier, brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. It's winner take all in the NBA and NHL, ECHL, AHL, you name it. And FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. We appreciate you tapping in. I know I've been away for a little bit, but as I mentioned at the top of the show, one of my sisters got married. So now we got all the wedding stuff out of the way. The WNBA starting to settle in. And so too, again, is postseason hockey. We just talked about Alex Wenberg, but we've got to talk about our boys. It's a Kansas City Mavericks Monday, and the Mavs had to come up big a few times in this series. They were leading 3-1 going into Game 5, and Toledo stomps back once again. 2-1 victory in Game 4. Jack LaFontaine. Overtime victory at that. Jack LaFontaine, 37 shots faced, 36 saves, just had a monster performance. And that is something we talked about it before in this series that I want to see Kansas City clean up. With the wedding, I haven't been able to catch up with Tad just because I've been busy. But here we go. Shots on goal overall, 37-27 in favor of the Toledo Walleye. The Kansas City Mavericks outshot in all 3 periods as well, or excuse me, the first 2 periods, and they outshot Toledo 9-7 in the third frame. And Toledo 8 shots to 1 in overtime, but That's all it took, was just the one for the Mavericks to get the win. So you love to see that. But again, the shot rate that Toledo is putting up, at some point something's got to give. You got to think. Toledo 0 for 4 on the power play. Kansas City 0 for 3 on the power play. That was game 4. Game 5, Toledo takes, once again, they outshoot Kansas City 27-16 overall. Outshot in all 3 frames in game 5. Cale Morris, 26 shots faced, 24 saves. Leatherman for the Toledo Walleye, 16 shots faced, 15 saved. I mean, we've got 10 plus, more shots that our goalies are facing on a night-to-night basis. 1 of 4 was Toledo on the power play. So I like what we're seeing on the PK for Kansas City. But I think they're going to have to be better on the power play. This is a very physical series. We're seeing tempers bubble over. So Kansas City has to buckle down a little bit more than they have so far. But the next game is today, actually. Going to be happening real soon at the time I'm recording. Kansas City hosting this game on Monday. They will also host the next game on Saturday, depending how this series goes. One more win is all Kansas City needs, and they have a chance to close out the series today against the Walleye, but they're really going to have to focus defensively on slowing Toledo down, not letting them get in front of net. Lots of scrambles. Jack LaFontaine in particular just doing a really great job keeping Kansas City in the game. And so you can't slouch defensively, and you have to take your opportunities and not do the hope passes. I love that phrase. I think there were a lot of hope passes in the last game or two, kind of the blind passes. That's not what Tad wants to see. He wants his guys squared up, looking at the options and making the best choice available. No need to get cute and fancy. They just need a win. And I think they can do it today, but they got to focus. So, of course, we'll tap into what Kansas City was able to do against Toledo. But before we close out today's episode, I want to tell you all about IIHF World Championships, the Men's World Championships. That's coming up next on Locked On Kraken. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destiny. So before we get out of here, let me tell you about IIHF World Championships. Congratulations to Team Czechia. If you listen to any of my podcasts or anytime I'm talking about international hockey, I've been telling you up and down on the men's and women's side, at the adult or senior teams and the youth teams, I like what Czechia is doing. They get the 2-1 win over Switzerland. They beat Sweden. They beat the US and Finland in overtime to get to the gold medal game. And Canada fell to Switzerland in a shootout. And that is what got them in the bronze medal game against Sweden, but Sweden would take that game. Just congratulations to Czechia. I mentioned also so many players from the Seattle Kraken. So congratulations to the boys too. When we look at the scoring leaders, we've got some familiar names for sure in this. Kevin Fiala ends up being the MVP of the tournament. When we look at the full kind of media all-star selection, Lukas Dostal from Czechia, Roman Josi from Switzerland, Erik Karlsson from Sweden. Those two make the D pair. Kevin Fiala, the aforementioned, from Switzerland, Dylan Cousins from Canada, and Roman Chervenka from Czechia. The IIHF Directorate Awards, Lukas Dostal also gets the award for goaltender Directorate Award. Roman Josi, who I've talked about, with the one and only Ann Kimmel, and then Kevin Fiala on the directorate list, as well as I mentioned, MVP. So, Sweden takes bronze. That is our darling Andrei Burakovsky, who comes up with a medal in the games. And, he had a pretty solid tournament. I'm pulling up the stats here. I thought I had them open, but so, I think a pretty solid tournament for Andrei Burakovsky. We talked about it the other day, but, what can we learn from watching Andrei Burakovsky in this game, or in this tournament, excuse me? 10 games played, 4 goals, 7 assists for 11 points. I think for me, I like the assists number. I really like that we can find Andrei Burakovsky a role in the offense without making him the center of the offense. But what do you have to do? I think, in my opinion, you probably have to get another international talent, someone who's got international experience, someone who has been in the Stanley Cup playoffs before. We have a few of those guys, but right now we can't really concentrate, or the decision has been made not to concentrate our top talent on one or even 2 lines. We're really kind of spreading the wealth. I do think some of this has been with all of the injuries that we were dealing with. But if we can set up Andrei Burakovsky so that he is one of the options, not the only option, it just felt at times, and I don't know if this was a directive or just kind of unspoken things coming to the forefront and to the top of mind for people, but it did look like Andrei Burakovsky at times, and we talked about it on the podcast, it looked like he felt like he had to do maybe a little bit more, go the extra mile. Maybe he didn't have the confidence, or even quite honestly, the understanding of what to expect, where to expect, when to expect his teammates to step up. But I like this for Berkey, tough break for the US and Canada. But again, if you listen to me talk on any other hockey podcast or about hockey, I've been saying international competition. And I think on the men's side, it's a totally different ballgame. You really see that parity a little bit more, but we can't assume going into any tournament, especially a tournament where NHLers are playing, that the US and Canada are going to absolutely dominate. No. But again, Andrei Burakovsky, as far as Seattle Kraken players, really stood out to me. And I think, again, we can learn a little bit about Berkey's performance in World Championships as nuggets to what to look out for. This is a big off season for the Seattle Kraken. We haven't heard a lot, but I don't think that means that there's not a lot happening. I sure hope there's a lot happening. And of course, we still have the Firebirds that are in contention. A lot of people saying that Disco Dan Bilesma is on that list, perhaps even the short list of potential candidates to take the vacant role as next head coach of the Seattle Kraken. How's it going to go down? Well, I guess you'll have to tune in to see. Thanks as always. This was a pretty quick episode. Just wanted to get something out here as we get ready for Kansas City to hit the ice in a little bit. And of course, we'll talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs as things kind of move and advance there. And we get ready for the Coachella Valley Firebirds to drop the puck on their next series. All right. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to one another. Hold fast. Stay true. Let's go, Kraken. Let's get fired up and go, Mavs, go. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.